Zettel für die lange Weg. 2 Flaschen Whisky für die Zeit. Und ich date gern habe, du bist dabei. Maria geht, fahrt mal weg, ist weit. Wann ich geh, ich werd die Fehler, wann ich geh. Du sehst nicht, was ich mach, du sehst nicht, wie ich lach. Ich werd die Fehler, du watsch sehen. Hab kriegt mein Zettel für den langen Weg. Du scheinst da aus mir finden kann. Es hat Maria und Dale ganz wunderbar. Hass ich dir den weißen Dank. Wann ich geh, ich werd die Fehler, wann ich geh. Du sehst nicht, was ich mach, du sehst nicht, wie ich lach. Ich werd dir Fehler, du watch sehen. Well, hallo, lieber Leid. Der Doug aus Pennsylvania ist wieder da. Doug from Pennsylvania, we're back at it. Another episode of PA Dutch Live. It is our March 2024 edition. And I'm so glad if you're out there watching that you are joining this evening. We have a wonderful show coming for you. If this is your first time joining us, welcome, as we say in Pennsylvania Dutch. Welcome to the show. If you are one of our many returning viewers, hey, welcome as well to all of you. If you are watching on the YouTube channel or if you are watching on the Facebook page, PA Dutch 101, you can put in that comment section and you can interact with us in real time. Please give us a shout out. Let us know where you're joining us from, and then I can turn right around and tell the world who's all joining us this week. I got some people. They know the routine. Hey, I want to give some shout outs real quick to Salix von Ufer, Gude Owetheit von Marburg, Germany. Our European friends normally have to stay up till midnight to watch us. However, the United States moved to daylight savings time last weekend, and the Europeans have not done so yet. They do it later, so they only have to stay up till 11 p.m. tonight to join us. You got yourselves an extra hour. How about that? So Salix, Marburg is a beautiful city. Thanks for joining us. We also have Marie Smoyer. Love the song choice as person that has moved away. Marie, thanks for joining us as always. Norman Jung, our good friend. Hoorah, es ist Zeit. Gute Without Steinbach am Glan. So, yes, if you missed one of my posts earlier this week, daylight savings time, one of the terms that the Pennsylvania Dutch came up for was the Dievelzeit, or the devil's time, because we changed the clocks and it wasn't God's time anymore. It was the devil's time, Dievelzeit. You know, some people really love daylight savings time. I don't know where I stand on the issue. It took me a while to get used to the time change, I will say that. But Norman, hey, I'm going to see you in a couple weeks. Can't wait to see you over there in the fatherland. Derek is joining us. Gute Abend von Windgap und wie bist Derek? Ich bin all recht. I am doing all right or very well. Hey, we got Dahlia Moore. She joins us every month from Fleetwood in beautiful Berks County, Pennsylvania. Marie says, oh, she's joining us from the panhandle of Florida, so we're way down south already. And we got Rachel. She joins us every month. The Wisswessers are here. That is great to hear and see you guys. And Adam Baker, Gute Owit von Freising by München. We got Germany as well represented tonight. So he's joining us from the city of Freising, which is near the city of Munich, as we call it in English. Henry is joining us. Schönen Tag from Newtown Square. That's not as far as Germany. That's just in southeastern PA. What a wonderful group of people. I'm sure there's more people out there. If you join or as you join, please put in the comment section where you're joining us from so we can give you a personal shout out. We got a great show coming at you. And as I do every month, I like to let everybody know we got some things coming up for you to mark your Pennsylvania Dutch calendars with. And I have some other news that I want to share with you this evening. But yes, this is the March edition of PA Dutch Live. And in the green room, I have Jeff and Claire Weiss. They are chomping at the bit to get on here and tell us their story all about the website that they run called A Pennsylvania Dutch Table, and I can't wait to interview them, and I know you're going to really enjoy their bit of the show. Hey, our good friend Scott, Gute Owit, my friend. Hey, Scott, stay on the whole show because I got a big surprise for you towards the end of the episode. That's all I'm going to say. Große Überraschung, wenn du Water kannst. But I have some news. Please mark your calendars. I announced this last month, but I'm going to announce it again. The annual Pennsylvania German Sommerlauf, which is a free event taking place on this Saturday, March 16th at the in Bethel, Pennsylvania, at the Midway Diner right off of I-78. It is a day full of Pennsylvania Dutch events starting at 10 o'clock in the morning, running till the late afternoon. There's music. There'll be vendors there. There will be Pennsylvania Dutch educational opportunities, some events for the kids too. Like I said, it's free. It's a great event. The people that run this do a really good job of mixing the day up with all different kinds of things. You can find more information on their Facebook page. If you just search Pennsylvania German Sammeloff, you can find that and get more information. Gary is joining us. Gary joins us every month from Egypt. That's Egypt, Pennsylvania, good friends. And Stephen Zimmerman Eberly, originally from Schoneck. Hey, that's a beautiful part of Pennsylvania right there, the old Schoneck. Another thing for your calendars, I announced this last month, but I'll keep announcing it because March 23rd, that's not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday, will be the annual Easter on the Farm at the Pennsylvania German Cultural Heritage Center at Kutztown University. This is another free event. You don't have to pay to get in. There'll be open air demonstrations. There will be tons of educational opportunities to learn all about how the Pennsylvania Dutch traditionally celebrated this time of year, whether it was traditions through Holy Week, Easter itself, or the springtime planting ritual and getting gardens ready for the spring and for the summer. There'll be live music as well, artists, craftsmen. It's a great event. Please, if you can make it out there, head on out to the Pennsylvania German Cultural Heritage Center at Kutztown University for their annual Easter on the Farm. One other event to announce, and that is there is a Pennsylvania Dutch language church service that'll be taking place at Zoar Lutheran Church in Lepnin, Pennsylvania on Sunday, April the 28th. So that's more than a month away. Put on your calendars. That's a Sunday afternoon at 2:30 p.m. And Ethan Levengood will be giving the Pennsylvania Dutch sermon that day. I need to give a happy birthday shout out. I just saw this before the show went live, and I quickly edited my information because I can't let this go by. Our good friend, a very good friend of the channel, Verna Dietrich, the matriarch of Dietrich's Meats and Country Store there in beautiful Crumbsville, Pennsylvania, in Berks County, right off of I-78, is celebrating her 93rd birthday today. And she's still working. If you stop at Dietrich's Meats, most likely she'll be back there behind the counter, behind the cash register. What an old Dutchy lady she is. She's got a good thick accent. She'll speak Dutch with you if you want, and you can't complain about the quality of Dietrich's meats and cheeses and all the good things that they have there. Baked goods, soured and pickled goods. You walk in there and it's like you're in Pennsylvania Dutch heaven. Whetting your appetite a little bit for our conversation. It's going to come here in a little bit with the Weiss. It's all about Pennsylvania Dutch food. If you've never been to Dietrich's, put it on it's a must stop when you're in Pennsylvania Dutch country. If you come to the Kutztown Folk Festival this summer, just run up the road to Dietrich's. You will thank me later. Get some smoked sausage, some fresh sausage, some sock washed, some Lepnin bologna. It's all made on the premises by the old Pennsylvania Dutch recipes. It is worth your trip. So happy 93rd birthday, Verna. Keep on kicking, dear friend. A couple months ago, I had Sarah Jane Williams on the show. I think it was back in the fall, and she talked from the Lower Macungie Historical Society, and they were trying to put together a documentary about the Fries Rebellion or the Hot Water Aufstand, the Heißwasser Aufstand. And you can go back and watch that episode where she talked about it. At that point, they were still crowdfunding and trying to get the money to make this happen. If you've been on Facebook or social media this week, you probably saw that it's happening. I have a couple photos that I took from their Facebook page. They were shooting the movie this week and the week before with some of our friends who join us every month on the show that are involved. If you notice from the picture, maybe you recognize the guy in the upper right-hand corner. That's Carson Kressley, quite popular, famous Hollywood personality. He was on Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. He is a Pennsylvania Dutch boy through and through from the Lehigh Valley. He is involved in the film, and it is telling, of course, this famous story from American history, all about John Fries and the rebellion that happened in the late 1700s. So we're going to keep following this progress. You know, they're shooting the movie now. Of course, then will come the editing process. Who knows how long it'll take? Sometimes it takes months, up to a year. But I am in contact with the Lower Macungie Historical Society and Sarah Jane, and I'm sure that they are going to let us know when the film is done and ready to be able to be viewed. I know they're probably going to have some events centered around that when the movie is done. I'm hoping that at some point in the future to get the director of the film on as a guest for Pennsylvania Dutch Live to tell us the story of making the movie. But I have to keep working at that. But I just wanted to share some of these photos. There's many more photos on Facebook from the filming, but they're doing some really, really cool things, and I can't wait to see the finished product. And speaking of Pennsylvania Dutch themed movies, as many of you know that are friends of this channel and friends of me personally, back in 2019, I, along with two German filmmakers from the area of Germany where the Pennsylvania Dutch come from the Palatinate, we made a movie called Hibba wie Dribba, The Roots of the Pennsylvania Dutch. And it told our story from my perspective as a Pennsylvania Dutch person. The first half of the documentary, we looked at who are the Pennsylvania Dutch, what's our story here in Pennsylvania. And then the second half of the documentary, I went to that region of Germany where we came from and tried to find the roots of our culture in Germany. You can watch that documentary on Amazon. It is there. If you just search Pennsylvania Dutch documentary, it'll probably come up. Or if you search Hibba wie Dribba. Well, since then, we had so much interest in the film, and it was hugely popular in that part of Germany, that there was enough of a push to make a sequel to the film. And we filmed the sequel in 2023 and 2022. And this time, I'm not the main character in this second film. The directors found a person from the Palatinate region of Germany, so someone that's a person from the region where we come from, telling the story of their region. And so the first half of the film is him searching around that home region in Germany, finding about the culture and the language. And then they came to Pennsylvania, and he experienced Pennsylvania Dutch culture through his eyes. And that story is now been filmed and done. And we are having our world premiere of the film in April, actually April 14th in Landau, Germany, in the region where we come from. I'll be flying over for that. Right now, it'll be just the German language version or the Pelsish version, but they did film quite a bit here in the United States. And eventually we're going to put out a version with English subtitles. And we're not, that'll happen, but it hasn't happening right now, but I will definitely keep everybody up to date. And when I get back from Germany on our April edition of PA Dutch Live, I'll tell you about what that experience was like. But if it's anything like the first time in 2019, it is going to be an awesome experience. And to get these Germans that are so excited about learning about the Pennsylvania Dutch, about our story, because our story is their story. We are living their culture and their traditions and their language 300 years later here in America. And they find that fascinating, as it is fascinating. And it's also fascinating for us, for those of us who get the opportunity to see where we come from, where these traditions come from. Why do we do the things as Pennsylvania Dutch people that we do? Why do we eat the food that we do? Where does that come from? It comes from back in Germany, where we originally came from. And both these movies really show that story and tell that story, that it is a bridge. We've built a bridge between the old country and the new country, even though 300 years has elapsed since the first immigrants came to America. But we still do so many of the things that they used to do back in the 16 and 1700s. It's a fascinating story. Our story is fascinating. These two movies highlight our story. I'll keep you guys up to date on that, but I did want to give that a shout out. If you're on Facebook, there's tons of promos and stuff. There's a trailer for the movie. There's no English subtitles, though, sadly. That will come, though. I promise you. That is a goal. And we'll eventually be having some showings of the movie here in the United States. Just letting you know, it's going to be a little bit until we can get that all accomplished. These processes take a lot longer than anybody realizes to come to fruition. But I wanted to give a shout out to that and let everybody know that that is happening. I had some people joining here. I want to give them a quick shout out. Lenora is joining us from Lakeland, Florida. Hey. Sarah S., she's got us on, she chimed in late. She's got us on 2x speed chipmunk mode. Boy, I bet I sound great like that. Bio T is saying, woohoo, excellent film. Thank you. I guarantee you the second one is going to be just as good. Hadley Doodle, looking forward to seeing those movies. Again, you can watch the first one on Amazon. You can stream it on Amazon. My mom always said that the Pennsylvania Dutch came from Alsace, France, which has been part of Germany and part of France at different times. I would like to see that movie. Susie, your mom was right. Some Pennsylvania Dutch do trace their roots to the Alsace. I have, in my big family tree, I have one or two lines that go into the Alsace because that was a traditional Germanic region of France. So, yeah, it's not just the Rhineland-Palatinate that we come from. We come from Hessen, we come from Baden-Württemberg, we come from Alsace, we come from Switzerland, but we melded here, in the United States and created this culture that we call Pennsylvania Dutch. Hadley Doodley's joining us from Wisconsin. Well, great. We got the Midwest represented as well. And welcome to the Funny Farm. Welcome to the Funny Farm. Okay, definitely watching tonight. Well, that's great. Thanks for joining us. Funny Farm. That's a great name. All right. One last thing. Every month I give a hee-haw style salute to some town in Pennsylvania Dutch country. And this month I chose a town that I spent some time in that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is Millersville in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Founded in 1761, population of 7,593. Salute to the good town of Millersville, where I did my graduate work at Millersville University. Maybe there's people watching here as well that are Millersville grads, fellow marauders, but I thought I'd give little old Millersville a shout out tonight, a salute. All right, I've talked enough. It's time to bring our guests on. This month, I'm really excited to welcome Jeff and Claire Weiss, the brains behind a Pennsylvania Dutch Table, which is a website, and they're going to be telling us all about their website. So let's pull them in. Hello, Jeff and Claire.
Hi. Great to see you, Doug.
It's so great that you guys are on the show. I always start every month the same way. If you could tell our audience a little bit about what is your Pennsylvania Dutch connection?
You need my creds, Doug.
I need, yes, your creds, please.
Well, basically, the Weiss side of the family, which is on my dad's side, were residents of East Greenville for many, many years. It goes back as far as Welker side of the family. That's my grandmother's side of the family. Came from the Palatinate in 1727. My Weiss side of the family came from Kaiserslautern in 1775 or thereabouts. And ultimately, my connection was my grandparents, who were Dutch-speaking Pennsylvanians, and lived to a ripe old age. So I knew them well into adulthood. And they were the ones who really led to my understanding of the Pennsylvania Dutch culture.
So my friend is Dad.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So this is a father and daughter. We'll give that out. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Right, Claire. So Jeff, it sounds like your story mirrors a lot of people of your generation. You had parents and grandparents that spoke the language, and they didn't pass it on to you as a kid. Is that true?
That is correct.
And do you also harbor the same resentment that a lot of people from your generation do? Think, man, I wish they had done that. I wish they had taught me that language. Or don't you feel that way?
No, I do. And you know, for example, the few words that I remember my grandmother would refer to my sister and myself as Grumbeerkeffer. And, you know, we came to understand what that meant, and didn't understand what the heck she was talking about. But yes, I enjoyed listening to it. When I went to college, I took German, but it's completely different. And, you know, when you see the written word, you can actually pick out enough of the meaning, but it's not the same, as you know.
It's not. Well, you do know what Grumbeerkeffer are, right? What she was calling you. That's a great word. So for those of you that don't know, Grumbeerkeffer are potato bugs. And if you didn't grow up on a farm or you didn't grow potatoes, they're these special kind of bugs that eat the plant of the potato. They're on the leaves. And one of my jobs as a kid growing up was to go out and squish the Grumbeerkeffer off of the potato plants. Whether I was good or bad, that wasn't a punishment. That was something we just had to go do.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's all right. I look fondly back on those days now. I didn't necessarily enjoy it at the time, but I look back on it well. But sure. So I got you guys on because you run the website, A Pennsylvania Dutch Table. So before and you sent me a bunch of pictures that I'm going to share with everybody, but could we talk just a little bit about how did this even come about?
Let me let Claire explain that from her perspective.
So in late 2021, I want to say, Dad called me up. I live 15 minutes away in Charlottesville, well, in Crozet, Virginia, and my parents are here in Ivy, Virginia, which is just outside of Charlottesville. So Dad called me up and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We are Pennsylvania Dutch. And I said, yes, I know. We're going to create a blog where we talk about Dad's recollections of his childhood growing up with Pennsylvania Dutch grandparents. And we're going to combine those recollections with a recipe that we'd like to modernize in some way, a Pennsylvania Dutch recipe, obviously, such that we both get exposed to all of these recipes and what it goes into to making them, especially the ones that he remembers from growing up, and get the Pennsylvania Dutch food stuff into the world in another venue. And so Dad had a number of Pennsylvania Dutch cookbooks, one of which particularly, do you want to talk about, Ruth Hutchison?
Yeah, I was leafing, or actually I was just searching through boxes of books that we have in the attic or down in the basement, haven't looked at in 30 years, and came upon Ruth Hutchison's New Pennsylvania Dutch Cookbook. This was published in 1966, the first edition in 62, and leafed through this thing. And let me say that I retired in 2015, and in the grand quest for something to fill my time, this blog idea popped into my head. And fortunately, Claire was completely supportive of the idea. So, the rest is history.
It involves food, so I'm on board.
Yeah, let me ask. I mean, I think out of all the aspects of a culture, and when you talk to anybody that's Pennsylvania Dutch, most Pennsylvania Dutch people today do not speak the language anymore. It was lost in a previous generation, like your family, and that's common for a lot of people. But there's one thing that you just can't shake, and that's food, and how important food plays to a culture. I've talked to many people that as they're reconnecting with our culture, it's always food that brings back the strongest memories for them, whether it's their grandmother's kitchen or the Christmas table or the Thanksgiving table. Is that the same for you, Jeff? Looking back on your childhood, is it food that was like one of those things that really spoke to you?
My grandmother was a paragon of the domestic arts, which I believe is probably a skill shared by many of the Dutch people in Pennsylvania. And she made her own clothes. She quilted. We still have quilts that she produced. But going over to her house, she lived in Mount Airy area of Philadelphia, and we lived in South Jersey. So it was just a trip across the Walt Whitman Bridge to visit my grandparents. Commonly would have things like scrapple, which was never my favorite, funny cake, shoe fly pie, and a variety of things that were icons of the Pennsylvania Dutch diet.
Claire, growing up when you did in a different time period than your father did, were you exposed to these foods as well, or what role did foods play for you?
Only, I think, by sort of legend status. I knew that funny cake existed, and I knew that shoe fly pie was a very cute name, but I had not had, I don't believe, either of them until we made them for the blog. I went to college at Swarthmore College outside of Philadelphia, so I got a little bit of the Pennsylvania. I grew up in San Antonio. My parents moved to Texas just after I was born.
At Swarthmore, she knew more about tasty cake than she did.
True. But I mean, I was aware also of the existence and the sort of questionable involvement of scrapple in anything, and it's been shared with me that lard is definitely a food group of its own.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
So mostly just by story and not by actual exposure growing up.
Fair enough. Well, you guys sent me some pictures, so I thought we'd go through some, and I'm just gonna just talk about the pictures and your experiences with these dishes. I guess before we start, let's talk about some of the pictures first. I have a bunch of questions for you guys.
Okay.
But you sent some family photos.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about those?
Yeah. So this is my college graduation day, and my grandparents are on the right. So on the far right is James W. Weiss, my grandfather. My grandmother is Katie Welker Weiss, and you can see that they're a full head shorter than I am. So I don't know where I got that. Me in the middle, and then my mom immediately adjacent to me, and my sister Pam, who now lives in Harrisburg, just to the left of that. So it's kind of fun. And my dad was taking the picture, so obviously he's not there. My dad
it
is
sounds
taller
like
than
your grandparents were really, a part of your childhood, it sounds like.
Oh,
'Cause
they
not
were indeed.
not
Yeah.
everybody has that experience. So that's great.
So a little close up of the family. So the top black and white picture of my grandfather in his all-purpose uniform. He would wear this on the beach, on the farm, in the office, at home. We even believed he probably slept this way, but he always had a linen shirt on and a tie.
Yeah.
And I never recall him wearing anything else but that. He got a little frisky. You see in the color photo down below that he was wearing a bow tie at the time. But both my grandfather and grandmother are at a summer cottage that we had up in the Poconos, and this was their summertime outfit as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, good old Pennsylvania Dutch Day. Don't show too much skin necessarily.
That's right.
So you sent some food images. So let's talk about some of these and maybe what this process was like. Because Claire, I guess so you're making these foods that you decide on, okay, we're going to make this recipe. Is it a shared process in the kitchen, or is one of you doing the cooking and the other one kind of like writing down what's going on, or what does that process look like?
Oh, it's a fully shared process. Dad and I will confer beforehand on what we think we want to make. So funny cake was our first recipe entirely, which probably has the deepest family memory of a dish or that I've heard of anyway. So we decided on which dish we're going to make. Dad goes and does the shopping. I'll show up on a weekend day. It's usually a Sunday. And then we'll spend the better part of the afternoon or early morning through afternoon, depending on how long the recipe takes, making whatever the thing is. It's a full, okay. The one thing that is entirely in my hands is pie crust, because I do pie crust.
Okay.
Everything else is are we sure we're going to, is this how do you scald milk again? What does the that whole thing? So
right. Especially if you're reading older recipes, because they did things differently back then, and ingredients were different too. Thinking about like the quality of some of the ingredients that they would have had in the 50s and 60s when you're thinking about that cookbook that you mentioned. Did you run into any of those issues where it called for something that maybe you couldn't get anymore, or you had a difficulty getting, or didn't you run into that?
Didn't we have a veal knuckle issue or something?
Yeah,
when we made pepper pot.
When we made pepper pot soup, asked for a veal knuckle, and I went to several. I went to several butchers who said no, they don't carry that. Really need to find someone who's slaughtering calves and so on. Which I'm sure there's someone nearby, but almost had to go to Amazon to find out who would send me a veal knuckle.
A veal knuckle.
Yeah, but I think at Dietrich's they probably have the.
I'm sure that Verna could get that for you. If they don't have it, she'll get it for you. So Claire, we have the picture of the funny cake here, and you said that this was one that was really held a lot of value and importance to your dad. So you make this funny cake and you eat it, and of course you try it. How did that make you feel connected to the culture, the food, and more importantly to your dad?
There ought to be
quite a bit. That was for me.
Yeah, well, I'll let Claire have a moment, but there ought to be a book about the physics of funny cake, because one of the great mysteries is that when you pour the batter in, you pour the chocolate at the end, and it all sinks down to the bottom and makes a very nice chocolate layer at the bottom. And there's some mystery about, is that the right order of doing it or not? How does it go? But Claire.
Definitely connected to the family. I think Pam, my aunt, had talked about funny cake more than anybody else in the family. And then the next year for her birthday, I sent, I have a separate recipe that I came up with for funny cupcakes, which are cupcake-sized mini funny cakes. So I made a batch of those and sent them to her, and I think she was very, very pleased.
But Doug, I'll tell you, the reason we're still doing this is because this very first recipe was such a success that it gave us energy, and we've kept going.
Sounds good. As another photo that you guys sent me. You want to talk about this one?
You want to speak to this one?
Yeah, so these are Müsli that are Christmas Müsli that
Müsli,
really I do not speak German.
That's all right.
That we did for our going into the holidays edition, and they're adorable, and they, according to the two of us anyway, are awful cookies. They are not tasty. They're kind of grainy. They're more like sawdust than anything else. They were very hard to keep together, and we departed from the recipe because what you're supposed to do is you form the mice and then you pepper them, shake powdered sugar over the top of them to give them the mouse look. But in order to, there was no holding them together enough to get the powdered sugar to just stay on. So we had a different cookie recipe that we were making at the same time that had icing, a sort of a royal icing. And we had enough of the icing that we could just dunk the entire mouse into the icing and then stick the little almond ears and currant eyes into the icing in a way that was not at all possible with just the basic Müsli recipe. So this was a success failure. Other people seem to like them. I'm not making them again. I won't eat them.
We had a Christmas reception at which we served these, and we asked everyone to give us their unbiased assessment of the quality of the product. I would say the majority of the people who ate them liked them, and we were just appalled. I mean, it was amazing.
It was a good way to get rid of them, though.
So I guess that's a good question that you kind of made me think about. So you write these blog posts up about these recipes and your experience making them. Do you often get people then commenting and saying, "I want to try this," or they try it and then let you know how they turned out?
We've tested some of the recipes on neighbors. For example, the shoe fly pie experiment was one in which we made a liquid bottom shoe fly and then a solid bottom shoe fly, and gave representative pieces to various neighbors in the neighborhood, and kind of took a poll of what their favorite one was. And I would say the liquid one won hands down.
As well it should, in my opinion.
That was also another method of getting most of the shoe fly pie out the door.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was not a fan.
It wasn't her favorite. I loved it. I thought it was I thought it was a premier piece of work.
Oh, good.
So
This is our oyster
pie.
Oyster pie.
Oyster
Another
pie.
thing, yeah, I think many people outside of Pennsylvania Dutch community have no idea how important oysters are to the Pennsylvania Dutch, which I think a lot of people find is funny because we're landlocked, we're not right at the coast. But I grew up with a lot of different oyster stew, for example, oyster pie. We had oysters in stuffing sometimes at Thanksgiving.
Yep.
What was your experience with this recipe? Was this a recipe that you grew up with, Jeff?
No, it was not. This was completely new to me. It was a great success.
Footnote: oysters stuff is not at all new to us in any way, shape, or form. I remember as a very small child being indoctrinated into loving oysters on the half shell by my grandparents. And then in 4th grade, there was a unit on food in school where we were supposed to say what our favorite food was. And mine was oysters on the half shell. And to a person, my entire 4th grade class said, "What is wrong with that person?"
Right.
So, but this recipe was not one that is family related.
I will tell you, Doug, that this generated extraordinary commentary from our readers, and many of them. It was done sometime around the holiday season.
It's November,
and a number of our readers actually modified them. One man put Virginia ham into it with the oysters. Which sounds terrific to me.
Yeah.
In addition, another reader actually added Dijon mustard and several other condiments to the mix. So this one actually generated a fair amount of experimentation by our readers during the course.
Okay.
So we thought that was pretty neat.
And also precipitated us wanting to put up an extra page of the website that is response and commentary, and so that's in the works.
Oh, good.
Yeah. This is our house. Actually, in Virginia, as you probably know, there's a significant Dutch community throughout, just following down the Monocacy Valley and into Virginia. And a number of people actually, as an endeavor in art, prepare these barn quilts. So there are certain areas of Virginia that are full of barn quilts, which are very unique and represent numerous designs, very pretty. So we actually went out and retrieved one, and we actually paid for it, and taking it down off the barn and put it up on the house.
We gotta send some hex signs down to you guys to get hanging up there as well.
This photo is also included because there's a pretzel in the not quite about mid on the left side of the frame, which is the family Weiss symbol, it would seem.
Okay.
Did that originally come from Mom and Pop, or is that back further?
No, it was a gift from someone. But I will tell you, my favorite pretzel is Utz pretzels. I used to, my grandparents actually fed us Bachmann pretzels.
Oh yeah,
I think Bachmann was absorbed by Utz, and they're still making Bachmann pretzels.
Yes, they are. They're butter twists, people. If you've never had Bachmann butter twists, you're missing out. Let me just say. But I do want to make one quick side note for our people that are for our viewers that are watching. And I did a video on this on my YouTube channel. There's a lot of Pennsylvania Dutch people might not realize that there is, as Jeff and Claire just mentioned, there was a large percentage of Pennsylvania Dutch that, like second, third generation here in the United States, thinking colonial, we're going way back, that started leaving southeastern Pennsylvania and went down into the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. And there were quite a number of Pennsylvania Dutch that moved down there and stayed down there. One of the unique things is they took, of course, the culture with them into the Shenandoah Valley. But instead of the rest of us that stayed, they didn't become as isolated as we did. And we see that the language didn't last as long in Virginia as it did here in Pennsylvania. But the culture absolutely went down to the Shenandoah Valley and even into parts of the Carolinas along the Great Wagon Road, because that was the main thoroughfare from Pennsylvania south, as people started to, as we got multiple generations and people needed land, or people wanted to buy land or move out. If you had 10 kids, not all 10 kids can get the farm. So some of the children would, move on west into Pennsylvania and south along the wagon road. So there are a lot of really cool Pennsylvania Dutch places to check out actually in Virginia, Pennsylvania Dutch themed places. There's a great open air museum down there that tells our story as well. So definitely, I'm glad that you brought up the Virginia connection, because a lot of people aren't aware of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But we're going to stick with the pretzel theme because you also included this picture,
which was a necessary addition to the recipe stream, as pretzel people. Mixed success.
Mixed reviews.
You wanted to be a big, well, I wanted it to be a big soft pretzel, and we had some issues with the not lime, but what did we do?
We didn't use any lye.
And that makes a big difference. It really does.
We used baking soda principally, and there was a little learning curve about how long you had to let it sit in the solution. If we let it too long, the pretzel would disappear and dissolve into the solution. So, it took a while, but it was a learning curve.
I would challenge you guys I would challenge you guys to get the lye and do it. We do this from time to time, and there's nothing like homemade pretzels, boy. When they turn out the way that you how you're used to having them, when you buy them. But it is a process making pretzels like this. But I wanted to, one of our viewers threw this comment out there. Don says, "My mom told me they used to put oysters in corn pie." Don, your mom is absolutely right. Corn pie is this great thing that you can do anything to. There are corn pie purists out there. I'm not one of them. I'll put a lot of different things in, but absolutely, you could get oysters in corn pie. If you had oysters available, they went in the corn pie. I grew up with oyster corn pie, and we also had non-oyster corn pie. It depended if we had access to oysters at the time or not.
Yeah.
A photo coming up that was kind of previewed a little bit. Here is your shoe flies. You want to talk? I mean, you kind of talked about this already, but was this one of your earlier recipes, since it's such a culturally iconic food for the Pennsylvania Dutch, or was it one that you waited a little bit to do?
No, it was early.
It was the
Okay.
second recipe that we did.
And you said that you did both a wet bottom and a non-wet bottom.
That's right.
And someone in the comments said, "Oh, I see if I can find it real quick," because it's true. We have this argument up here. Yeah, welcome to the funny farm. The great shoe fly debate. Which is it? Is it wet bottom or is it dry bottom? And of course, it's a matter of taste. I mean, both are great. But you made both. What was the verdict from? I mean, you said you shared some with your neighbors and stuff, but you guys personally, which one is it for each of you?
None of the above.
Oh,
I like them both.
goodness.
I like them both.
I know I'm very much abandoning my roots. I'll just take funny cake, thank you.
Okay.
You have a nice cup of coffee. Shoe fly pie is outstanding.
You are 100% correct. Oh my God, Claire, we'll let you keep your PA Dutch card, but
I'm on notice.
Kidding. Yeah, you're on notice. That's right.
Fair.
So, as we're kind of like wrapping up here, I kind of asked a couple questions. I asked some questions that I wanted to check in with you guys about. But now that you've been doing this, how long have you guys been doing this for?
2 years.
Yeah. Just over
Okay,
2
so
years.
2 years worth of recipes, interacting with people that are reading your material. What have you learned from this experience?
As Claire said, lard is a major food group. Number two is most recipes that you find written by truly Pennsylvania Dutch sources are adequate for a crowd of 40 people. So I had to learn how to actually divide recipes down so that it was manageable without bringing in a forklift flat of flour and whatnot to do it.
There was a several occasion discussion about Dad throwing a recipe out because it was made for 40 people, and I said, well, we can just do a fifth of it, and that has now become a sort of a normal thing.
Jeff, has there been any recipe that you made that made you emotional?
The oyster pie did, and but really the funny cake did, because that's the fondest memory I have of my grandmother, and it was sufficiently unique that really none of my acquaintances who had no Dutch relationship or anything like that had any idea about what it was about. But both my sister and I think, agree that funny cake is really the iconic dish of my grandmother.
Do you feel, and I know this is totally kind of like a deeper end question, but as you were making that recipe, did you feel a connection to your grandmother again?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
And when you tasted it, did it transport you back to her kitchen?
It did. Hers was always the best.
No, of course. Yeah, no, absolutely.
She must have made 500,000, funny cakes in her lifespan, but she lived to about 85. But yeah, she was truly an artist, and I don't recall anything being badly made by my grandmother.
It's unbelievable the power that food has, doesn't it? It just and Claire, did you actually meet? Did you ever meet your father's grandparents, or had they passed already by the time?
I don't.
No,
think
she had been deceased.
So how has this process helped you understand our culture, your culture better?
Well, it's brought to life a lot of the stories that I heard growing up about the food that was being pretzels, especially the deep-seated family connection to pretzels. That and funny cake and seeing shoe fly pie in the wild, well, in the domestic setting anyway.
Yeah. Right.
And then seeing shoe fly pie in the wild when we were up at Kutztown this past summer. Yeah, I mean, it has embodied literally the stories that I heard growing up about Dad's growing up.
Does
One
it
of those
do you,
things where, if people are asked if you were exiled to a desert island, what could you not live without? I would say pretzels. When you say,
You would say.
yeah,
I'm
okay.
I'm going funny cake of our places.
those are both great things. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. This is their website. It is padutchtable.com. And there's a lot of things you can click around and check out. Are you guys at all on social media?
We have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. They're not updated. They're just conduits to the website. Every once in a
Okay.
while, I think that I'm going to do updates when we actually post a new recipe, but haven't gotten myself together on that yet.
The answer is no, Doug.
Yes, we do. It's there.
Well, if you guys start getting active in that sense, please, anytime you post something, let me know, and I will definitely share with my audience, because this is the kind of stuff that they just, and no pun intended, but they just eat it up. I mean, there's this thing with food. Whenever I do a video about food, a recipe, that gets 3 times the amount of views and clicks. Then it's true. I'm not lying. I could do an awesome history video and yeah, it gets some traffic, but I do a video on how to make corn pie and it's through the roof. So I think, a lot of things that we talked about in our conversation tonight about the power of food and the power that food has to bring us back to a place that no longer exists, or to be with people again that no longer exist. It is truly magical, I think. And I don't use that word lightly. It sounds like from, the stories that you guys told, doing this crazy little blog, telling these stories and trying these recipes had that power as well on you guys. And hopefully, what you guys have done have inspired other people to try and make a recipe, or it takes them back to a place that they remember. Oh, that was something that my grandmother made. I want to make it now too. So we can't underestimate the power that you guys are sending out there into the world, and that it is the joy that it's probably bringing to a lot of people. So I just want to thank you for the work that you've been doing, and please keep doing it, of course.
Well, I hope all that is true, Doug, and this has been an incredible honor and privilege for us to participate. So thank you for the invitation. And
No, it was my pleasure. And I will, anytime I see you guys update something, I promise I'm going to spread it on. It's like, I was born on a farm, raised on a farm. Nothing grows without manure. You got to spread manure around. Not saying that your content is manure. I always want to make that clear, but we need to spread this stuff out to get the message out there. So I will absolutely do that. And I love what you guys are doing. That's why I asked you on the show. I was so glad you agreed to come on. And, as we move along in the future, if you guys come up with some other things you want to come on the show and talk about, just reach out and let me know by all means.
Fantastic.
All right.
Thank
Pleasure. Have a great time down there in Virginia. A blessed spring as we're rounding that quarter, I think, slowly. And thank you again for the work that you're doing. Keep up the great work, and I will keep in touch.
Thank you so much, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you. Yep. Everybody, how wonderful is that? Isn't it true? At least it is for me. Maybe you're sitting there shaking your head, but I'm telling you, there is one thing. There are certain recipes and certain foods that no matter where I am when I eat them, they take me somewhere else. And as I listen to Jeff talk about his grandmother and his memories of his grandmother, I could just replace myself with Jeff and go back to both of my grandmother's kitchens, and I can smell what's going on in there. I can see them at work with their aprons on. I can taste in my mind those foods that are so integral in our story. They're simple foods. The Pennsylvania Dutch are simple people. We're people of the earth, and our food is a representation of that. It's a good meal if almost everything on your plate is a shade of brown, right? And you guys know that. That is the Pennsylvania Dutch cuisine. We have a lot of browns, don't we? But aren't they delicious? Shoe fly pie, it's all browns, right? Just as an example. But I know that all of you have that special recipe that your grandmother or your grandfather made that takes you somewhere, or your mom or your dad, that takes you back in time. And my challenge to all of you is to keep making those recipes. Just because grandma or grandpop is gone, don't let those recipes die. Keep them going. Expose your children and your grandchildren to our cuisine, whether it's red beet eggs, shoe fly pie, or if you really want to be adventurous, stuffed pig stomach. And you might be surprised what the reaction is, because if you tell the story, and that's what I love about Jeff and Claire. Claire is experiencing these foods through the stories of her dad and the stories that he brings of his childhood. And we've taken those recipes from the 1900s and maybe even the late 1800s, and we're bringing them to 2024. And through that, Claire is able to get a taste, literally, of her culture. And that's what you have the power to do with your children and your grandchildren or your neighbors' kids or your neighbors or your friends down the street. If you're having people over for dinner, throw a Pennsylvania Dutch food item at them, even if they're not Pennsylvania Dutch, and tell them the story that goes along with that dish. And you will be surprised at the reaction. What a great story, everybody. I got some people I want to give another shout out to. Brigitte joins us. Brigitte, I know you said you're joining late from Philadelphia. You join us every month. You're going to have to rewind because I gave a shout out to the John Freeze movie that you are in. I saw the pictures. You guys look great, you and your husband, and all the people, all the reenactors that are helping out. I cannot wait to see this film. So thumbs up, Brigitte, and to all of you guys down there that are involved in the movie. That Funny Farm, they're from Perry County, Pennsylvania. I don't know better. I know where that is. My good friend, our good friend of the channel, Michael Werner over there. Good Obit, Heid bin ich mal do. He is instrumental in why I'm sitting here and doing the things that I do. Michael runs the newspaper Hibba Dribba. I've been working with him for years. He keeps me going. I hopefully kind of keep him going too. And together we're doing some really great things. Michael, I'm so glad that you were able to join us tonight. Oh, there's a couple other people that joined. I want to give a quick shout out before we move on. There's a lot of great conversation going on over in the YouTube channel about these foods, and shoe fly pie debate is definitely going on. Our good friend Seth joins us every month from sunny San Diego, Pennsylvania. Originally, though, Kunkeltan, up there, Kunkeltan. Laura says, now I'm hungry. Yeah, me too, Laura, right? You're showing me all these foods, and I'm thinking I can taste them in my mouth. Who else we got here real quick? And then we'll move on to some other things I want to talk about. Oh, BioT says, are these videos or blog only? I think at this point, it's just blog entries with tons of photos. Check out their website. Maybe we can nudge them into entering into the video realm in the future. Maybe. Our good friend Jeff says, Milchboy, milk pie. That's a great Pennsylvania Dutch recipe. Absolutely. And yes, Funny Farm, no one can cook like a grandma. Boy, isn't that the truth? My goodness. Lou Ann is joining us from Manchester, Maryland. She joins us almost every month. That's great. Who else we got here? Boy, a lot of people are joining, and this is great. Don, my kids love pig stomach. I like your kids, because I'll tell you what, if I was ever on death row and I got the last meal, you know, you get to pick your own last meal, it would be a toss-up between pig stomach or corn pie. Those two are the ones that hit home closest for me, with a side of red beet eggs, apple butter, and cottage cheese, homemade bread. And for dessert, it would be tough to pick one dessert. It's going to either be shoe fly pie, wet bottom, of course, or a recipe that's handed down in my family that I've done videos about, cottage cheese pie. And if you are looking at me like, that sounds delicious, it is. And if you check out the YouTube channel, and if you search Doug Maidenford or search my channel for cottage cheese pie, I do a how-to video how to make it. It's super easy, and it is a absolutely delicious dish. Seth says they might let you have both. You know, Seth, they might. A couple things here real quick. Every month I bring you something Pennsylvania Dutch language related. We are in March. Easter is early this year here at the end of the month, and I thought we could talk a little bit about some Holy Week Easter tide traditions among the Pennsylvania Dutch. I've done a lot of videos about this, but just to throw a couple at you, I have the Pennsylvania Dutch on the left-hand side. I have the English on the right. Just a couple things that maybe you knew about, maybe you didn't. So some Easter customs, Gebräuche an der Oster. So for Green Donnerstag, which is Green Thursday or Maundy Thursday, so the Thursday before Good Friday, a couple things that the Pennsylvania Dutch say. One, du musst etwas Grünes essen. You got to eat something green. For me growing up, that was most likely fresh dandelion that we'd pick, because usually by that time of year, you have some fresh dandelion, the green part. But any green would be okay. But if you don't eat your greens on Maundy Thursday, you might be looking at a little bit of bad luck. Another thing for Green Donnerstag. Schmeiß ein wenig Heu in der Scheierhof, dann esse es die Kie und sie wäre es ganz Jahr net fett. That's an old saying. So throw a little hay into the barn, and the cows will eat it on Maundy Thursday, and they won't get fat the whole year. And then we have tons of traditions on Karfreitag, which is Good Friday. One, we're told you shouldn't bake. Bachnet, don't bake on Good Friday. Bake on Holy Saturday or on Easter, but don't bake on Good Friday. Another thing that I was very much ingrained in me as a kid, grop net in die gårde. On Good Friday, you do not work the earth. You don't plant anything. You don't dig in the garden. That's a big no-no. Du musst frische Eier farben. That's one that most of us know. That's when you color your eggs, right? Another thing of the Pennsylvania Dutch for Good Friday, if you have chickens and they're laying their own eggs, the eggs laid on Good Friday, they're a little special because we have this belief. Nem zwei Eier und du sie in ein Schublatt nahe. Dann wart bis der Blitz es ganz Jahr nicht ins Haus einschlage. The belief is that if you have eggs that were laid on Good Friday, if you place them into a drawer, then that kind of like protects the house specifically from lightning. Try it. You never know. So some Easter traditions of the Pennsylvania Dutch. I did some other videos that can teach you more about Easter traditions. Just look up, search Easter on my YouTube channel and you'll come up with a bunch of videos. Every month, I try to bring you music. And this month, I want to share one of our newest Pennsylvania Dutch musicians. He's joining the show tonight, Scott Regan, who goes by the pen name Blaubarrier, Blue Mountaineer. And I want to share one of his new videos. He's put a bunch of videos out here recently of his music. And this is his song called Grundsauloch. Now, I have to change a couple things around. Stay with me, people. Stay with me. And I'm going to go to this. I'm going to click this. And we're going to listen to his song Grundsauloch by Scott Regan or Blaubarrier. Enjoy. Well, leave a light. How wonderful is that? We have some amazing people out there doing amazing things in Pennsylvania Dutch with music right now. Of course, you guys know Chris and I do our music shtick. We got Scott now doing some amazing stuff, and he's going to have some albums coming out in the future, so he tells me. And as soon as he does, don't you worry. I'll be letting you guys know because his stuff, he gave me some sneak peeks. There's some really great stuff coming from this guy here in the very near future. He will be most likely performing at the Kutztown Folk Festival this summer, and I'll let you guys know about that so you can mark your calendars and come see him play because what a talent. What a wonderful song, all about the groundhog hole. How beautiful, right? So he's not the only one out there making some great music right now, and I'm going to keep highlighting Pennsylvania Dutch musicians and artists as we move forward throughout the year because there is some really awesome stuff happening right now. We can't underplay it. Did you know? Most of you do know, but if you didn't know, would you like to get your own Pennsylvania Dutch themed merch? I think most of you do. You can check out our website, Zazzle.com/PA Dutch stuff. I talk about it every month. You can see some images here of people wearing our shirts, and we get stickers and magnets and you name it. You can get over 1,000 different things. Zazzle.com/PA Dutch stuff. Rachel Yoder and I have designed tons of different Pennsylvania Dutch themed merchandise, whether it's shirts like you've seen there, I, nog eenmaal, or Donnerwetter, or we have our Elbedritch shirt and our Schnickelfritz shirt. Again, you can get them in a shirt, but you don't have to. You can get them as a sticker, as a magnet. I have a couple of them as magnets on my kitchen fridge. And whenever anybody comes over that's not Pennsylvania Dutch, it's always a source of, hey, what's that? What's that mean? What's that about? It's another way that you can share our culture. Heck, you can get a magnet and stick it on your car. Then you can be Dutch driving anywhere you go. How's that sound? I think that sounds great. But check it out if you feel so moved. They make great gifts. Zazzle.com/PA Dutch stuff. Also, if you like what we're doing here at the channel and you'd like to financially support us, thank you in advance. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Doug Mainford. As you all know, and I say this every month, all of the coffees that get bought for me, that money goes towards the upkeep of the channel. Paying for the internet bills, buying new cameras, buying other stuff that needs only for the channel, dear friends. So I would like to give a shout out to some people that have recently financially supported us. Dolly Moyer, Joe Huddleston, Dave Smith, Alan Moyer, Seth Moak, Gary Johansson, Ron Griffiths, Jana Branch, Todd Santee, Rich Maidenford, Carol Diefenbach-Canner, and Jim Carper. Thank you so much for your support. If you don't feel like giving anything, that's fine too. You keep coming back though, month after month, and you keep watching that show. And I'll keep bringing Pennsylvania Dutch live to all of you. Speaking of which, mark your calendars for our next episode. Our April episode will be a little bit later in the month because I'm going to Germany in April for a week for the movie premieres, like I talked about earlier in tonight's show. I will be back, God willing, at the end of the month. So our next episode will be April 24th when I will be welcoming Lisa Minardi onto the show. She is one of the very important people at Historic Trap, Pennsylvania. And if you don't know anything about what trap is, are you in for a treat? We're going to learn all about the Muhlenberg family and their connection to the Pennsylvania Dutch and their rich, the rich part that they play in American history. And of course, how the site in Trap tells their story today. It's going to be an awesome show. So please mark your calendars for the 24th of April. My friends, Liebe Light, we've made it to the end of another episode. It has been a wonderful hour spent with our good new friends, Jeff and Claire Weiss, and I thank them for coming on. We got some really great episodes coming up in the future. April will be Trap. I already got May and June booked as well. Some really great guests to talk about things that are going to blow your Pennsylvania Dutch minds. Some awesome, awesome stuff. Keep an eye on upcoming events. Follow along on Facebook, on YouTube, of course, on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter, where you can get all of the Pennsylvania Dutch fix you need. Definitely follow along in April, because when I'm in Germany for the movie premieres, I will be posting daily, hopefully doing some live videos as well, because it's going to be an awesome time of Pennsylvania Dutch love back in the old homeland with friends of the channel and people that have really influenced me in making this journey. And it's just going to be an awesome experience, and I want to share that with all of you moving forward. But until next month, dear friends, the 24th, again, follow along on social media, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, and as we say in Pennsylvania Dutch, mach's gut. Mach's gut zu dir, mach's gut zu dir, mach's gut zu dir for now. Unsere Zeit ist all und so, es ist mach's gut für now. Hoff wieder mit dir zu sein. Hoff, du bringst zurück ein Freund. Mach's gut zu dir, mach's gut zu dir, mach's gut zu dir für now. Unsere Zeit ist all und so es ist, mach's gut für now. Hoff wieder mit dir zu sein. Hoff, du bringst zurück ein Freund. Und so mach's gut, lieber Freund, mach's gut.